First of all, Tristan, Nocturnal Birding. This is the first album that you could say that was created as a group effort. And how has this changed, and how does it affect your perception of author and punisher music?
Yeah, I think just being when we were on tour, we were playing the last album, but over time we realized that some of the older material that had guitar on it that was a little bit more loose and not so in with sequences and MIDI clicks and mechanical like structure, they felt better. So we started playing some older songs, and sort of during those tours, we sort of found the nature of how we wanted the new album to be, which was more punk rock and loose with guitar. And like I'm a bass player and a drummer, and he plays guitar. And so that was really helping us figure out what we wanted to do. So now with having Doug in the band and playing and writing the new record, we knew we wanted it to be a live album. Like it was all about playing it live and being visceral, not necessarily being a studio record where we have a lot of atmospheric synthesizers and things like that. It's all about how this is going to come across in a live venue.
And the album's main theme is around the world of birds. And there is a literal bird song all over Nocturnal Birding. So I'm wondering, where does inspiration come from?
I mean, the inspiration is sort of, I was hiking a lot with this hiking group along the border. And this is, sort of during the pandemic and beyond. We dropped water for migrants that are crossing from Mexico to the U.S. So I'm hiking along the border in nature a lot. And, it was kind of like a point in my life where I essentially was able to slow down, get off the phone, be outside and listen. And for me, that was like at the age of 47 or 46 when I started writing the album, was a huge like awakening. And it was like I realized there were birds in the world for the first time. And that was sort of a ridiculous statement, but it was, I don't know, it was a really good feeling to actually start using the bird app and listening to birds and recognizing them. And then I downloaded 4,000 bird sounds onto my phone and started walking to work in the lab when I was working my job and listening to bird sounds and taking notes at which ones sounded mechanical, which ones sounded melodic, which ones I could write with the guitar. So then I would send bird riffs to Doug, and then Doug would, kind of make the parts a little bit more, advanced and chuggy and that kind of thing. So
your music was always meant to sound like the scream of the machines, but this time you managed to incorporate elements of the natural world, how you mentioned, and that's a bit of a paradox with this album, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about drum machines and about Author and Punisher, I think, is that although it looks very mechanized and it looks like RoboCop and it has this nature, it's actually very organic for electronic music because everything is played live, Every drum sound is not pre-sequenced. I play it all, so you feel the natural fluctuation of the music like a normal band, even though most of the sounds are very mechanical and synthesized. So I've always felt Other Punisher is very organic, like it's industrial music. I think organic industrial music, and then adding the bird sounds into it gives it that sort of natural. But I mean, even though I'm a mechanical engineer and I really geek out on tech, I love tech. I love gadgets and like robotic components. I'm also like very conflicted about it. The danger of over industrialization in the world, and over, if everything is synthetic and you can 3D print anything you want. Like, I've been 3D printing parts for my setup sometimes. Man, it's just like plastic, 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 plastic. So I also am sort of fantasizing about the natural world taking over again and my job becoming unimportant. That would be kind of nice.
On the new album, you've invited a lot of great guests to collaborate with, including Megan from Couch Slut, Indonesian Kuntari, and my favorites from French band Fonge. And
Yeah.
had you met each of these artists in person before and then invite them to collaborate with?
If I go through them all, Fonge, yes. Fonge, I played a festival with them. We have the same booking agent. We now share a sound person. And I met them at a festival, Rock and Berlin. They're actually, they're sort of like, we're pretty similar in sound. I would say Fonge and Author the Punisher like have a lot of crossover. Kuntari was a collaboration born out of Future Laundry, which is a fashion group, and we collaborated on a mask that I built. So from that collaboration, we decided to make a music video. Then from the music video, I said, hey, is there a local artist in Indonesia or Bali that we could collaborate with on a song? So that came from a fashion perspective. And then Couch Slut, my manager is the same as theirs. So my manager recommended it, and I didn't know much about Couch Slut, to be honest. But once I got to know them, I kind of fell in love with her voice and her style on stage. She's kind of a maniac.
Mm.
Have you ever seen them?
Yeah, I saw them at Roadburn Festival.
Cool.
It was very, very impressive, but in a quite negative approach is overwhelming when it comes to the Couch Slut stage performance.
Yeah, it can be a little bloody.
Yeah, with smashed head included, of course. So back to your new record, Black Storm Petrol is probably the heaviest sounding cut on the album, but overall, Nocturnal Birding is, at least from my perspective, the most accessible record to date of Author and Punisher. And is this a sign of your artistic maturity, or perhaps opening up to new listeners without abandoning your original style?
I would never say that. I mean, I don't feel like it's an accessible record compared to Crawler. Crawler seemed like the most accessible because, I covered Glory Box from Portishead. I had a lot more melody, a lot more singing. I would say if this is accessible, it's accessible to like metalheads, decibel music writers, the relapse records crowd. I feel like it's not as accessible because it reminds me of old Godflesh, like the album Selfless, where it's like super chuggy. That one definitely, it reminds me of that world. So I had no sense of accessibility when I wrote this record. I had an idea of like really, the really rhythmic. I wanted to have the guitar chug of the guitar, and I wanted really rhythmic, like visceral clanging, almost like a train, and coupling that with some of the bird like rhythms. I just wanted something really upbeat. That's it.
You recently recorded a track for the new Perturbator album, and how it is like working with James.
Well, I knew James from touring, and also from maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago. I supported him in the US on a few dates. It was so easy. I mean, he sent me that track, and it was a pleasure because nobody really asks me for my voice on tracks. They usually ask for my machines. And so it was nice for somebody to ask for me to sing, and sing in a way that was a little bit more like... So James and he wrote to me asking for my voice, which was very sweet of him. and the song kind of had this like pure Depeche Mode feel, which when I was on tour with him, those were my favorite songs of his. The ones that like that weren't quite as synthwave and weren't quite as upbeat. It was a little bit slower. It was more my tempo. I'm slow. I'm like 70 to 100 BPM. And so it was perfect. And like the first one that I sent to him, he wrote me back and he loved it. And literally, we made a couple more changes by his suggestion that were great suggestions, and we nailed it in like 3 back and forths. It was so painless. I hope other people ask me to sing on stuff because it's, I don't have to set up my gear. I don't have to create more sounds. That's a lot of work for me. This is easy and it's fun. I love singing, coming up with melodies. It's really fun.
You also made Nine Inch Nails song Reptile on tribute album, and how much does Reznor's work mean to you personally?
Well, I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but I really was not following Nine Inch Nails so much. Back when Nine Inch Nails was really in the late 90s, I would say, when they were, I wouldn't say the most relevant because they're still extremely relevant and incredibly influential in the world of industrial music. But at that time, I didn't know the work, I was a Godpush, Ministry, Fear Factory, Meshuggah, and then also like tons of death metal and drum and bass and dubstep, hardcore music. So I really, the poppier stuff, I never really listened to, like the poppier heavy music from the 90s, of Metallica and Slayer. I don't have any connection to that stuff. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but do you have some personal connection with the track Reptile that you chose?
No, they asked me to do that track.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm sorry, that's not what I know. It's not, doesn't make for an interesting answer.
Okay, but fair enough. With each album, Author and Punisher becomes more and more recognizable. And it took you actually 20 years to get to where you are now. And do you feel a sense of gratitude or resentment that it took so long?
That is a very good question. But also, you probably don't want to know the answer to, but I don't want to say I carry resentment because I feel very lucky that I've been able to do a lot of the things I've been able to do, like tour the world a few times a year. Like you just can't complain about that. I don't have huge crowds everywhere. I can do pretty well in like Berlin and London and Chicago and and then the big cities, and then the other ones, it's hit or miss, I'm very grateful, but sometimes it can be frustrating. I hear things from agents about festivals, not getting on certain festivals because my music is not innovative, or like they're only looking for the most innovative bands. It's something I heard as a response to why we didn't get on a festival. And I'm like, how can you get more innovative than designing your own fucking instruments? And playing everything live, And then there's these bands that have backing tracks that do industrial music where every night the performance is exactly the same because they press play on a sequencer and they sing over it. I work hard at what I do, so there are some frustrations about it, but unfortunately, fans like what they like, and those bands draw a lot of people, and I understand that that's what makes festivals money, and that's the way it goes. Okay,
a question for the tech geeks. What new gear can we expect to see on the new tour, and what have you built recently?
Oh man, I really got myself into a pickle this tour because I brought so much shit. We had 11 Pelican cases, 12 Pelican cases, including Doug's guitars. So I have my standard small setup, which is my rails, which I play drum machine on, and I have this mini rack with a few keyboards, because I do play keyboard. But then I have now this platter, which is a disc, almost like my old rotary encoder. That was a really big steel disc. But I have two of these now that are a little bit smaller. One of them snaps, so you can use it as a trigger. It's like a D10 trigger. I use that to trigger off different samples and noise-making devices. And I have the heavier one, continuously spins, and I control pitch tones with that on multiple songs. And then I have the fader, which is just a giant fader, like a cross fader that I use for all sorts of different shit. I have two microphones on a new boom arm. And then we have a ratchet. A ratchet, you know, ratchet, like air impact wrenches they use at like auto shops. So I have a pedal board of about 5 of these, and there's an air compressor, and so we trigger those off as sort of like a rhythmic noise making thing that you can do. Doug actually controls this one because I don't have any limbs free right now. But you kind of, it's like or like ka-choo, which is kind of a new fun thing to do in between songs and on certain rhythmic parts. And I do have the neck thing that we use on one track on the barge because to tell you the truth, we're only playing, we play the whole album straight through in the order. And then we play a few old ones.
Okay, my last question would be about, are you still keep paying homage to Woody Guthrie by reminding him of using his slogan that this machine kills fascists?
Always. It's written on the front of, sometimes I have to rent tables and it's not spray painted, but I have them this tour, it's spray painted, and my t-shirts, and I wish I could, yeah, man, it's a brutal time right now. The United States, especially, is a really vicious place. ICE and Trump and the right wing fascism, authoritarian rise in the U.S. is brutal. It's really sad, and but you know, there's a lot of people fighting, a lot of organizers, and my wife is an activist, and she works in racial justice and climate justice, and I really give her a lot of credit for keeping my vision not just focused on music, but also focused on social justice and the impacts and the message. My lyrics are always political. They're not just about birds. They're always political. So you can't be a musician and just be about music. It's just, I don't like when I hear people say that.
Okay, so keep it up with this good work, with your efforts. Wish you all the best in the future, and hopefully we see each other in Poland, because you're gonna play 3 shows, including Warsaw.
Yeah, I hope that Poland is one of those markets that's a little tricky for us. It has been growing slowly, so I hope we can have some good shows. And I apologize for the lateness today. It was just a little crazy on tour.
Okay, no worries. Thank you very much for your time and for your very open approach during this conversation.
Awesome. Thank
you
so
very much. Appreciate it. Take care. Bye.